life. Love it. Such a groove. So, we are continuing with our theme, our series this month, Cultivating Authenticity. And throughout this month, we're exploring how we can practice cultivating authenticity and living with integrity in all areas of our lives in order to be fully expressed and to be who we are here to be in this world. So Brené Brown offers this definition. Authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. She is an expert on authenticity and vulnerability and shame researching. So her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, is very profound and something we're going to be diving into more soon. So living authentically is not about becoming anything other than who you are, right? But it does require a bit of inner excavation to look within and to recognize and then release those barriers that stand in the way of revealing our authentic selves. So that leads us to today's topic, dropping the mask. Carl Jung says, whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first of all his own face. Whoever goes to himself risk a confrontation within himself. I'm going to switch this to a new, how it's written. They used to always say he, himself. So I'm going to start this over and switch this so it's more relevant to all of us, yes? So whoever looks into the mirror of the water will see first their own face. And whoever goes to themselves risk a confrontation within themselves. The mirror does not flatter. It faithfully shows whatever looks into it. Namely, the face we never show the world because we cover it with a persona, the mask of the actor. But the mirror lies behind the mask and shows the true face. So this is kind of where we're coming from with this idea of masks or personas, right? We're not talking about physical mask, but the way that we mask or hide who we are in order to kind of, protect ourselves, protect perhaps our hearts or our emotions in some way, in order to fit in or feel safe in a group. And this is something that most humans do. And it's often something that we have learned from a very young age, that if we act a certain way around certain people, that we will be received well or accepted or liked. But hiding in this way what we actually think or feel from others because we want to be accepted or feel a deep sense of belonging, this actually keeps us from letting the light and the truth of who we are from being seen. And while it may seem to keep us safe, it becomes a problem when this way of being starts to become our identity. And when we've practiced since childhood these certain personas or masks, it can start to feel like who we are. And over time, we may lose that sense of our authentic self. So this month we are looking at how we can identify those personas and masks in order to come back to the truth of who we are. Because masking also can keep us from experiencing the deep connection and intimacy that we actually seek. And this, again, requires that deep mirror work to look within and to notice when and how we may be masking. So for many, when we were in the kind of lockdown, shutdown time of COVID, we had time and time, lots of time, to be with ourselves, right? And not be necessarily, depending on our lives and works, but not necessarily around people as much as we were. And during this time of slowing down, it provided an opportunity to be with ourselves more. And perhaps some took advantage of this to do some more of that deep inner work. And so during this time, I remember telling my wife, Heather, I said, I just kind of, made this proclamation one day. I'm done with masking. And of course, not really understanding the context of which I was talking about, she said, well, shouldn't that be something we talk about as a family? And I'm like, what? And then I got it. Oh, she was talking about wearing a mask because of COVID. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't mean I'm done with literally wearing the mask, for COVID. I mean, I'm done with masking, with hiding certain parts of myself, right? So y'all are getting the full-on rainbow, the quirky, weird rainbow, right? And it takes courage. Having the courage to be vulnerable, to drop our mask and let our light shine, to be seen and felt. And, this is all part of the practice of cultivating authenticity. And it takes practice again when we start to be in groups in different ways that we notice, oh, am I starting to, withdraw? Am I starting to hold back certain things? And what would it be like to give myself permission to fully be me? From the spiritual perspective, which I loved that reading from Ernest Holmes, we know that it is the nature of life to fully express itself through all beings. And this impulse within us is the very nature of life, spirit, source, universe, God, whatever word works for you. It is the very nature of that impulse within us that is operating through us. And just like the nature, the natural world around us in this time of spring, that it starts to stir awake from the winter time, and we start to see signs of spring reaching out to express itself, themselves, nature, whatever, in this new glorious way through new growth, right? I had the opportunity yesterday to go hiking with Patty. Thanks for the invitation. And it was called Signs of Spring, early signs of spring, right? And so you start to see, still amongst the kind of, bare winterness, the beautiful new buds and flowers emerging. And the same is true with us. We are always emerging. We are always growing. So there's something new and glorious to be expressed through each of us. Something that desires to be seen and known as who we are. And at the same time, there's that instinct to want to protect what seems vulnerable, right? Just like in nature, you're hiking and you're like, oh, you want to, be mindful of where you step as these beautiful little flowers begin to emerge sometimes on the path. So we want to be mindful, and we have that sense of vulnerability when something new is emerging within us to be shared and expressed. But it doesn't mean that we hold back. So we all wear these masks one time or another, and some maybe more than others. But having the courage to embrace our vulnerability and let our true selves shine is the path to living out loud and experiencing the freedom of simply being who we are. When we wear a mask, we keep part of ourselves hidden that deserves to shine. And masks can also keep us tied to the past, right? By wanting to continue to play a part or a role, perhaps, from the past that no longer serves us, a way of being that maybe we have outgrown. So to step into this present moment and to know ourselves as the truth and the power that is wanting to be expressed through us, we are asked to courageously be vulnerable, to drop the mask and to speak our truth, always listening to that still small voice within, the divine guidance, and then to choose to be who life knows us to be. This is where it is up to us to choose how we show up in the world. Because we can either choose to be who life knows us to be, or the other choice is to resist that change or that growth and expansion and to continue to play small in order to fit in these little boxes of what is acceptable or to maintain the status quo. But what we know is the nature of the universe is always growing, always expanding and evolving, and therefore so are we. So maintaining the status quo is counter to the very nature of who we are as evolving species. And not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. Personal growth and transformation, that which we are up to in this community, what we're always talking about, this personal growth and transformation requires the ongoing practice of asking, who am I? Right? We talked about that last week. This meditation of who am I? Who am I? Who am I really? Who am I really? Getting beyond the roles, beyond the mask, and tapping into that infinite wisdom that knows. And then courageously choosing to express that freely, to be seen authentically, without dimming our light for others. And to express who we are even when it pushes the envelope a little bit. It may test the comfort of others, those that may be committed to maintaining the status quo or committed to playing it safe and wanting everything to stay the same. But it's up to us to choose and to embody that courage to be who we are, even when society hasn't quite caught up yet to embrace the fullness of our magnificence, right? Even when society is wanting everything to stay the same because it's comfortable, we know that something is emerging within us to be and express and to show up as the fullness and the magnificence of spirit within us. So to go against these cultural norms, which are often derived, from religious beliefs that date back to ancient times and are honestly no longer relevant in today's world. So we have to explore, why do we have these certain social constructs, right? Like there was a time when it was illegal for women to wear pants. But we've evolved, and we're evolving again. And especially what we're seeing in the world now with the trans community pushing the envelope on what it means to express gender and to get beyond this binary, it pushes the envelope. And some people are scared. And what I know is that we are always growing and evolving. And in order to embrace the fullness of who we are, sometimes it's met with resistance, but it doesn't mean we stop. And as I said last week, it takes all of us to advocate for creating a world in which it is safe for all of us to be authentically who we are. So, this is how we're going to make it practical. We have to do the self-reflective work to identify the various personas that we present to the world. And to notice when these personas or these masks come up. You know, how are we when we're with our close family? Is it different than when we're with extended family? How are we when we're with our friends? And is it different with certain groups of friends? How are we when we're at work? And beyond all of that, what is the core essence of who we are that is really seeking to be revealed beyond those masks? So here are some common personas. The nice persona. Anyone identify? Me? Some call it the Mother Teresa, right? So what is that desire within us to be seen as nice? And often it's probably derived from something from childhood, and we got praised for being nice. So we kept it up, even in moments when authentically we may not be feeling so nice. That's when it becomes a mask. Another example is the intellectual, right? This is also known as the Albert Einstein. So where is, showing up and presenting your knowledge or putting your intellectual self forward in order to usually mask some insecurity? When is that showing up and why? The over-contrived strength persona. Anyone have that, right? Like, I got it. I'm the strong one. Everyone can lean on me, until the point where we are breaking down, yeah? The positive persona. This is another big one I've been unraveling through my years, right? It's all good, always looking for the good. And this can be a very tricky thing in our teaching where we talk about the benefits of affirmative thinking and positive thinking and all of this. But when it becomes a persona, it's not authentic. And if it's not authentic, then what we are going to be, expressing and putting out energetically beyond the ways we're trying to say and act like it's all positive won't be in congruency. And so we actually won't experience that good of, the nature of life that is wanting to be experienced through us. So pretending everything's all good when it's not can be another persona. And the key is to look at what is the motivation. To try to notice when a certain persona comes up, are we afraid of something? Are we trying to hide something? What is the motivation to show up in a certain way because we are scared of what may actually be true? And another common persona is the grumpy persona. Anyone have that one? The Oscar the Grouch, right? And it can become this way of just that we protect ourselves. Sometimes it could even be through grumpy, sarcastic humor. But again, when we notice that we are showing up in this way because we don't want to actually look or feel something, that's when there's the opportunity to do the real work, to feel our feelings, to notice why we are wanting to hide or not allow a certain aspect of ourselves to be seen or known. So I invite you to start considering these different personas, and these are just samples, right? For you, you may have a myriad of ways that you show up in a mask. And it can be helpful to name them. Come up with a fun, silly name, so then as you start to do this work to a self-awareness to notice, you're like, oh, that's just people-pleasing Patty, sorry, not you, Patty. That just, it rhymed, sorry. That's just my people-pleasing Patty, So then we can notice it and begin to create some space between our authentic self and this mask without it being so attached to who we are that we don't even realize that we're showing up that way, right? It can show up mask in so many ways, right? The it's all good, the I've got it, I've got everything in control, nope, I don't need help, right? And sometimes when we wear a mask of confidence or authority, it may be effective in some ways, or it may be an appropriate response, but the moment when we are willing, or unwilling rather, to be vulnerable and humble and ask for help and guidance, then we are, again, stopping ourselves from authentically being in a way that will eventually lead to burnout. right? So sometimes, in work or other things, there's the whole like fake it till you make it. But notice if you're always faking it till you're not making it, then perhaps, if you're faking it and not making it, then perhaps there's an opportunity to ask for help and support. And what this does, it actually allows other people to support you. And it provides an opportunity or a gift from someone else to share their authentic selves or gifts in a way that could support you even when you may feel scared to be vulnerable. Asking for support and in getting the encouragement of others and being willing to drop that I've got it all personality or persona rather, invites something new, which is connection and is the very thing that we are often searching for when we originally created these masks. Because we wanted to fit in, we wanted to be connected, we wanted to experience belonging. So we start creating these masks, and then we realize the masks are actually keeping us from that more intimate connection. And so that's just one example, right? But being willing to drop the mask of strength and I've got it all and to ask for support from others is a way to really experience a deep connection and sense of belonging. And it can be vulnerable. Pretending to be okay when we're not actually prevents us from being okay. Humanity is messy. And when we embrace that, we can begin to feel more connected with others. At least in my experience, right? If someone only shows me their mask, I feel less comfortable or safe to show my full self, therefore creating this kind of superficial connection or relationship where people are just showing up as their mask. And honestly, where I am in life right now, I'm just not interested in that anymore, right? We have to let go of the fear of being seen and known and let go that there is some outside idea of what it means to be an ideal human. So when our masks start to become our norm, we can lose ourselves. This can happen in intimate relationships. It can happen in any relationships. It can happen because of this tendency of wanting to try to people please and fit in. And it is exhausting. It's exhausting. Trying to show up in a way other than who we truly are, it begins to take a toll on us and our relationships. And we notice that we may be living someone else's idea of our life instead of our own authentic idea of our life. So imagine if you loved and honored and valued yourself so much that it didn't even occur to you to want to try to hide or conceal that part of yourself. Or you didn't even feel the desire to want to inflate or exaggerate or puff yourself up in order to be accepted and loved. Imagine knowing and loving yourself so much that you are excited to show the world who you really are. This is what dropping the mask allows us to do, and it's a way of restoring our own self-worth and self-respect. In the moment, hiding behind the mask may feel like it's keeping us safe, but it's actually taking a lot of energy to maintain this. And that is energy that is then taken away from experiencing the deep, real heart connection that we desire. Instead of seeing ourselves as whole, we present as a two-dimensional mask and display who we think we should be instead of who we are. E.E. Cummings says, the greatest battle we face as human beings is the battle to protect our true selves from the self the world wants us to become. And by world, we mean, right, anything outside of us. Society, the messages we're told, other people in our lives. So the greatest battle we have is to understand who we are as this unique, authentic being, human being, and to let that light shine no matter what the world is telling us we should be or do. So what would happen if you began to courageously step into the vulnerability of who you really are? How would you show up different? Are there parts of yourself that you have been hiding that now perhaps you are willing to start to share? Are you willing to let go of the mask of self-sufficiency, the mask of it's all good, the mask of the grump? And in order to do this, we have to do the inner work of loving ourselves, of knowing ourselves and loving ourselves so much that we don't want to hide who we are anymore. So often we can think of this idea of mask as how we kind of hide or portray ourselves to the world, but another part of this is very much how we mask for ourselves, because there's parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at, that we may have deemed over time as unworthy or unlovable. So we've buried those and even began to mask them from our own self-awareness. So that is where we are invited to do this deep work of loving and accepting all of ourselves and remembering the spiritual truth that we are worthy, we are whole, we are lovable. And that is what allows us to then let our true light shine. Brene Brown says, because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world, our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. So this work really does always come back to here, yeah. We can't actually feel a sense of belonging without first loving and accepting ourselves. So if you notice there's a space in your life that you don't feel like you belong or fully connected, notice if there's a part of you that you aren't accepting or that you are judging in some way as not being good enough to belong or fit in. Or another aspect may be, maybe that's just not your people, right? And that's okay too. So we begin this journey of unmasking as a way back to ourselves and to feel at home with ourselves. And some practices we can do this. I mentioned last week, going on a date just with yourself. Taking yourself out as if you are meeting yourself on a first date for the first time. Notice, is that mask wanting to come up, or what would it be like to explore the depths of who you are? Looking at things such as, what do we love to do? What do we value? What gives us life? What makes us feel alive and energized and fully expressed? These are all clues to that inner authentic self that may have been buried away or masked away through all the years of life. To look back at some of the activities and things we loved to do in our childhood. Did anyone do that this week? To go back to coloring or drawing or playing, singing, dancing, right? So if you didn't, you still have time. You can do last week's homework and this week's at the same time. So finding, creating the opportunity to know yourself, to explore things, and to try on what brings you life, what makes you feel alive today. Journaling and meditating and reflecting on what we value and what we love and who we are. These are all wonderful practices to begin to unveil our authentic self. Because remember, it's not something out there that we have to figure out or be or become in some way. It is actually just a letting go and revealing of who we really are. And to free ourselves from the codependent nature of wanting to live for someone else's approval. You know, to notice if you're basing your actions on what you think someone else may say or do or think, that could be an opportunity to find your way back to yourself. And sometimes it may require actual physical space or energetic space to be alone, to separate a bit from perhaps the relationship, the people, the community, the place that you feel that you may be enmeshed in and have forgotten the truth of who you are. Create that space as much as possible to return to the inner being of your true self. Ernest Holmes says, life is not just something to be endured. It is to be lived in joy, in a fullness without limit. So we've been given this amazing opportunity to experience life in this physical form, at this time, in this body, in this being known as whoever you are, not just to get along, go along to get along, not just something to be endured, but to actually be fully expressed and live in joy, to live our life to the fullest. And it is through our authentic self-expression that we get to express this joy and this love and this vitality for life and all that we desire. We deserve, because it is who we are. Joy, love, it is who we are. Being able to be fully expressed in this world is one of the greatest gifts we can give, not only to ourselves, but to the world. So, this week's invitation is to first cultivate that awareness. To become aware of your various personas that may be showing up in various spaces or relationships in your life, and to get curious as to why, either consciously or unconsciously, you are choosing that persona. And then lean into the courage and inner strength of your being to drop that mask and to reveal your unique essence to those around you. To say what needs to be said with love and with kindness, to speak truth with conviction, and to stand in your values. And let others see your unique, quirky, silly, messy self, warts and all. Because guess what? We all have them in one form or another. And that is the beautiful gift of our humanity. So are you ready to drop the mask and let your light shine? Yes? Even when it's scary? Okay, we can do this. Let's take a deep breath. So we take this opportunity now to move into this practice of affirmative prayer, knowing and recognizing the one life that is love, this one life that is peace, joy, wholeness, knowing that this is the very essence and nature of all of life, and therefore it is who I am. I breathe into this awareness of the divine activity of life moving in as and through me, as joy, as peace, as strength, as love, as wholeness. Knowing that all I am is all I ever could be, the very essence of my being. The I am that I am, fully expressed right here, right now, in and as all areas of my life. So I know and recognize that who I am is whole, perfect, and complete. I let go of the desire to try to hide or mask any parts of myself that I have once deemed unlovable or unacceptable. And I step courageously into the opportunity to be fully seen. I step courageously into the vulnerability of authentic self-expression. And knowing that as I choose to be and show up as life knows me to be, that I am surrounded by, embraced by the very vibration, that attractive energy of love, of acceptance, of peace, of those too who have embraced their authentic self, so that together we can show up in this world authentically and allow this transformation, this evolution, this spiritual growth and development to unfold without hesitation, without limitation. I know that I am free to be me. I choose to drop the mask and to walk in this world courageously aware of the truth of who I am. Knowing that there is an aliveness, a sense of vitality and freedom and joy that is to be expressed as I say yes to living my authentic life. And knowing that I do this work, this deep inner work, for myself and for the collective. For the more I know and become who I'm here to be, the energy of authenticity ripples out into this world and uplifts the entire vibration to that of love and joy and peace and freedom. So I'm so grateful to speak this truth, so grateful to stand in the awareness of who I am, to know myself so fully and to love myself so fully that I get to experience the fullness of life with joy, with peace, with vitality. So with great gratitude for the fulfillment of this word, I release it now into the action of the law that always says, yes, 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 my beloved, it is done, and it is so, and so it is.